What's up everybody, welcome to a tutorial here on the Ahrex channel. My name is Morten, you might know me as Coastfly, and I will be your host for today's tutorial. So good evening or good morning depending on the time where you watch this video. This fly is dedicated to Popovics, and it's a surf candy, which is a really great fly all over the world. Magnificent fly, magnificent fly tire, and our thoughts go out to Bob's family. Let's jump down to my vise here and tie out this surf caddy. So the hook here is the SA280, the Minnow hook. Slightly stronger wire, a little bit thicker, so it has a little bit more weight, but it is still a fairly small one, so it won't be adding that much weight if you compare it to the UV resin head anyway. And actually, if you think about it, the candy style head also kind of acts like the jiggy head fly, also by Bob. And that is just something that these fish that we're targeting with these types of flies, they just can't resist that jigging movement. So what I'm doing here is tying in some olive hackles. These are basically just dry fly hackles. You might know them as flat wings, or some people call them flat wings, but in order to be a flat wing you have to tie the feather in flat on the fly. So let's just leave it at hackle, and then you guys can discuss down in the comments whether it's not a flat wing or when it's a flat wing. What do you think? So that's the tail there. Let's get in some, you know what, let's get in some flash before we do anything else. And I like this fluorescent yellow, but of course you can tie this fly in all sorts of colors, but chartreuse or fluorescent yellow in this case, mixed together with some chartreuse, really seems to be a great color combination. So let's get some strands of that flash in here. Flip this over on itself. Tie it in so that you have some strands on the left side and on the right side. The length, you can always trim that afterwards. So let's get some of this bucktail in here. Now the thing about bucktail is that the hairs down here on the tail, let me hold it up here, down here they will be filled with air, so when you tie down on these they kind of want to flare out. I don't want this on this fly. That's typically something you do on the bigger flies, the hollow flies and pike flies, or if you want to build up some sort of bulk on your flies. The hairs down here is really great for that, but I will be using the ones from the tip up here that has less air in it, so it won't flare out. The longest ones I will be plucking out, as well as the shortest ones. Don't throw them away, you can use them afterwards or for a different fly. Tie this in. Turns, make sure it sits where you want it. And this I want roughly on the top half of the hook here. Trim this off. Turn the fly over in the vise, if you have a vise that can do that, of course. I mean, no, most vices nowadays can do that. Let's grab some white bucktail, so same thing. You want the hairs from the top. Then again, pluck out the longest ones. If you have long bucktail like I have here, sometimes they're a little bit shorter, so you kind of just have to hold it up to the fly here and have a look. These white ones here on the bottom half. Get a few turns in. Kind of move it around a little bit with your thumb. Secure that. Trim off what you don't need. Then clean up the head here. Just like that. Now don't worry about this being a little bit wild, you will get that under control with the UV resin, which will be the next step. Right, where's my whip finish? You know what, can't find that, so I will just be whip finishing with my fingers. Whoop, that's what happens sometimes, but luckily I got in that whip finish before the thread broke. So, of course, this fly needs some eyes. I'll be using some flat ones. These are from Pro Sport Fisher, really great eyes because they are flat, so it won't build up that thick of a head. Get a drop of resin on the side of the fly here. Put on an eye. Remember to leave a little bit of space from the eye to the from the hook eye to the eye of the baitfish, because you will be building up a head, so it's nice to have a little bit of room up there. Cure this, and this is just to, you know, to get it to stick. As long as I'm working with it here. Turn the fly over, do the same thing on the other side, get a drop on here. Put that eye on. Sometimes you might even need to hold that down with your dabbing needle or something similar, because, you know, the hook is round and the eye is flat, so sometimes it's kind of hard to get it to stick or to lay flat. time with it here. Like so. That's that. So let's start building up that head. What I like to do is get a good amount of resin into these materials here. Just like that. Let that soak in a bit. Can also help it if you wiggle things about, just like this. So now comes the, I guess the hardest part on this fly is to kind of get that base nice and slim. See it here. And don't worry about these few hairs that are a little bit all over the place. Just trim those off like that, and then start building up a good layer here. Now this is a resin that's a little bit on the thin side, so depending on the type of resin you have, the thickness of it, you might have to do this in a few stages like I am here. But that's okay, just take your time with it. Carefully touch it a little bit as you go along to make sure if it's hardened or not before you put on the next layer. So same thing. And as you can see here, the fly is actually a little bit thicker in the back than it is in the front. So I will just be building up in the front here until the shape is the same all the way around before I cover the whole thing. I hope that makes sense. And sometimes you also have to keep this moving a little bit. That is the secret to forming really nice heads on your flies with UV resin, is just to keep it moving. Another layer on here. Now I will cover the whole thing. You absolutely have to love these surf candies. They don't tangle when you throw them. They last a very long time. Looking pretty good. One thing to keep in mind is the gap between the head of the fly and the hook tip here. You don't want to close that up too much, because otherwise you will just be having trouble setting the hook to the fish when they grab the fly. So just keep that in mind. This is fine, but you can't go much bigger with the head on this one. After that you'll just have a lot of trouble setting the hook. So that there is the fly done. One surf candy in fluorescent chartreuse with a little bit of white belly, some olive hackles in there. Really great fly. Thanks Bob for the fly, not only this one but all the flies. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do remember to subscribe to the channel here from Ahrex. I will leave a link down below for my channel as well, so you can check that out if you don't know who I am. Until next time, bye.